previewing Week 3 in the Dork Side Pokemon League. The Bangers and Crobats have their home openers. Arizona attempts to slow the Minnesota Wrecking Crew. And Pig's Eye hosts an interleague friendly in our premium matchup. All that and more as Week 3 of the season kicks off. Next. Hello everyone and welcome back to DSPL Weekly. I am your host and league commissioner, Grumm. Welcome to Week 3 of the Dork Side Pokemon League. I am here to give you the full slate of games as the top teams in the league establish themselves and the bottom teams try to rise up and the teams in between figure out which side of that they'll go. Before we get into this week's matchups, let's take a look back at how myself and the community are doing at predicting. I went 6-0 last week, and the community went 5-1. That brings my record up a little bit better. We're doing a little bit better on the season. I am now 8-4, and the community, they themselves are 8-3-1. So we're all right. We're all correct there. So we're pretty good. Can't wait to get these predictions in for next week's. You'll see it next week. Hopefully, I put a little bit of a difference in between me and the community because I know things. I know I'm the commissioner. But either way, as a reminder, though, you can join the community by going to discord.grumm.tv to become a member of the community, or by leaving your comments below predicting this and every week of games in the comments below. And while you're doing that, don't forget to leave a like and a subscribe for more DSPL content. Now, let's get to the games. We open Week 3 with the red-hot first-place Minnesota Doduos, 2-0, heading to the red-hot sands of the 1-1 Arizona Diamondbacks, who currently sit in 5th place. Minnesota is coming off an impressive 4-0 victory over Colorado, as Arizona is following an impressive victory of their own, beating Long Island last week 4-0. Minnesota's early season MVP of Lycanroc Dusk leads both Cinderace and Greninja into battle against Arizona's Iron Bundle, Versatile Gyarados, and Terra Captain Dachshund. Minnesota is currently 2-1 and in first place thanks to the imposing will of Lycanroc Dusk, whose 7 eliminations puts it at the top of the league, tied with Roaring Moon early in the season. Joining Lycanroc Dusk in the festivities thus far, Jolteon with 3 eliminations and Noivern and Cinderace each having 1. Minnesota hasn't needed to make many adjustments thus far this year, bringing the same team for both of its prior matchup, the aforementioned quartet, as well as Greninja and Salazzle. Arizona, on the other hand, has used much of its roster, the common core being Bundle, Gyarados, and Dachshund. Following the 2 tough matchups to start the season, a loss to San Antonio and then a win over Long Island, Arizona, like many pundits, was expecting the competition threat level to come down a bit in Week 3, but Arizona has to plan for the all-gas, damage move, go burr mentality of Minnesota, looking towards Sneasler to outspeed and threaten back Minnesota's squad, and potentially bringing Ting-Lu and Bronzong to withstand the hits. I think Arizona has a bunch of options to deal with Minnesota, be it beating Minnesota at their own game or withstanding and counterattacking. Either way, I think the key this week for Arizona will be their first round pick, Iron Bundle. Bundle's ability to outspeed every Pokemon Minnesota has naturally, except Weavile and Jolteon, means that Iron Bundle can potentially run a modest set with its choice specs and do Minnesota what Minnesota does unto others. The question for Minnesota is this the week they remember to name Jolteon the Terra Captain and bring it? I mean, Jolteon's ability to Terra would do wonders for Minnesota this week, as its ability to challenge Bundle as a special sweeper, especially if it's named a Terra Captain and one of those Terras is Ice, is going to be key for Minnesota, who offers little in terms of options elsewhere, with Jolteon's Bolt Beam coverage of Thunderbolt and Terra Blast Ice. I think this is a test for Minnesota to see which kind of dog Basque the general manager has in him. Does he have that dog in him to build the team and beat Arizona? Is his dog just a silly-minded, damage move, go burr, I'm going to run into the fence dog? I think that question needs to be answered, but I don't think it changes the result of the game, as I think Arizona wins 4-0. In our next matchup features two teams coming off losses, as the Long Island Ducklets, looking at the playoffs from the outside as they sit in 7th place, fly south to take on Corpus Christi, who are looking at the Ducklets from inside at 6th place. With both teams at 1-1, this matchup will send a team north of 500 and the other one goes down south. Long Island hopes that the group of Iron Valiant, Landorus Therian, and early season powerhouse Slacking will be able to lead them against the Crobats core of Garchomp, Gallade, and Charizard. Corpus Christi is coming off of a humbling loss to San Antonio and has to get back on their feet against another team filled with threats from top to bottom. Corpus Christi's knockout leader Garchomp will have its hands full this week, as Corpus doesn't have too many good matchups. As it stands right now, with the Crobats not having named a Terra Captain to help with matchups such as this. If they end up doing so, Miss Magus, Alolan Raichu, and Lycanroc Midnight offer interesting options for the Crobat, especially if Miss Magus gets a Fairy Terra. Having said that, this week Serena matches up pretty well, having a coverage for most of Long Island's team and its Queenly Majesty ability preventing Dragonite from getting off strong extreme speeds or any priority moves for the rest of the team. For Long Island, they're also looking to get back some of their swagger that they had following week 1. Long Island's abilities to control hazards with Iron Treads and a Hisuian Samurott looks to put pressure on Corpus Christi, though they'll have to deal with the various options that the Crobats have to remove hazards. After sitting on the bench last week though, I think Landorus T comes back into the lineup, being able to intimidate Corpus Christi's various physical attackers and provide some breathing room to let Dragonites get some setup easier. This group is going to be a tall task for Corpus Christi. Long Island has a good team with strong options, and Corpus Christi is a scrappy team with only a few mon able to address this matchup. I talked about it earlier, but Serena matches up pretty well this week, having good stab grass moves that are only resisted by Dragonite and Hisuian Electrode, having good coverage to deal with either of those in Play Rough or Ice Spinner, and has Rapid Spin to remove any hazards. Perhaps we see a return to the crit heavy set that Corpus Christi ran in week 1. Perhaps not. Long Island, on the other hand, has plenty of options for key Pokemon. I think though they missed the utility that Landorus T usually brings them last week in their loss, especially in that Sneasler matchup, and this week, having the ability to stifle Garchomp will be big. I think this matchup is just a bit too much for Corpus Christi, who will go out with a fight, but ultimately will fall to the Ducklets 3-0 in the Crobats home opener. From one team finally playing in front of their fans to another, as we shift to the home opener in the British lands as the Bangers host the Doug Trios of Colorado. Colorado comes into the matchup in 10th place at 0-2, looking to get their first win, relying on the wings of Zapdos, Tornadus T, and Scizor. British, who is currently in 8th place, is coming off of a 3-0 win following a forfeit from the Boston Bronzors, and are hoping that their defensive core of Toxapex, Garganical, and Screamtail can push them over 500. Joining Colorado this week again may be yet their defensive supports in Blissey and Blaze, Paldean, and Tauros, who both could use a good rebound from last week's performance. Blaze Tauros is second in the league in statuses, which is great, but Colorado has not been able to capitalize on those burns as much as they would like to. In fact, perhaps this is the week that Tauros is able to deal some serious damage, especially if British only have Toxapex to resist both stab, fire, and stab fighting moves that the Tauros offers. Galarian Slowbro can also add value this week, being the only grounded poison type that Colorado has, which would allow it to soak up toxic spikes that Toxapex and the Bangers look to lay down, as well as hit the Toxapex hard with either Psychic or Zen Headbutt. On the Bangers side of things, they're looking forward to getting back on the field, as their victory via forfeit kept them from actually seeing if their adjustments from week 1 worked or not. Meowscarada wasn't able to get on the field without eating an Aura Sphere, and thus one of their big hitters looks forward to an opportunity to show its speed and power this week. The defensive core of the Bangers is one of the best in league, but they could potentially add this week Quagsire, whose unaware ability can flat out ignore any potential setup from Colorado this week. Add in Brambleghast, whose Wind Rider ability makes it immune to hurricanes that Colorado enjoys going for, and even a heat wave from either Tornadus or Zapdos. With Colorado looking to get its first win of the season, I think they've brought the right Muns, but it's putting them in the right position that has cost them, either with their switch-ins or their EV spreads in general. If this isn't the week that Brazilian Fury brings Galarian Slowbro off the bench, I don't know when Glowbro will come off the bench. It absolutely walls Toxapex, it puts pressure on Screamtail, Quagsire, and Garganical, and can set up for the rest of the Doug Trios. I think the Bangers have a couple Pokemon that they should bring, but their key Pokemon is going to be Garganacl. Being able to resist most of the Dugtrio's best Pokemon, be it either due to its typing or stats, being able to recover damage and give out passive damage with Salt Cure, and even being immune to status moves with its ability, the Salt Monster is key for British. I think a back and forth battle is in store for this matchup, with either team walking away with the win. Colorado has been a couple plays away from much more favorable positions in the game and perhaps having a win. Same can be said for British in week 1. But I think if Colorado is able to make those plays, and if British is able to make those plays, I still think Colorado comes out of this 2-0. If you're enjoying this week's preview and you like the changes to the way the video is done, let me know in the comments below. I appreciate any and all feedback. And while you do, take a moment to do that. Why don't you like the video and subscribe? My channel is growing as the season is going along, and you can help that by hitting that subscribe button. Now let's go on with our second half of the week. We start the second half of the week as the 0-2 Birmingham Bouffalints take on the 2-0 San Antonio Spheal. The Spheal, currently second place in the league, are coming off of a 4-0 victory over the Corpus Christi Crobats, while the 11th place Birmingham Bouffalints are coming off of forfeiting their matchup against Pig's Eye Pignite. San Antonio's big threats of Roaring Moon, Volcarona, and Walking Wake give Birmingham a daunting task, but Ursaluna, Chi-Yu, and Aqua Paldean Tauros are up for the challenge. San Antonio has shown off its prowess in the last 2 weeks, having a score differential of +8, thanks in large parts to its team ability to take advantage of the sun. Moon, Volk, and Wake truly appreciate not just the sun that Torkoal sets up, but also its support, as its ability to pass out burns, set up rocks, and remove hazards on their side of things has given San Antonio a real boost. But I actually do think that this is the week for San Antonio to bring the rain, keeping Walking Wake and Volcanion on the team, but swapping out Torkoal with Pelipper. It was a good matchup this week against Birmingham. This means Terra Captain Overquill can finally come off of the bench, and its ability to turn into a water type with Terra with Swift Swim can finally show its value. Add in new pickup Cantonian Electrode, and suddenly the fast Spheals got somehow faster. And hell, maybe Burger brings Torkoal as well, giving him some flexibility. For Birmingham, the matchup on paper seems daunting, simply because of the sheer power San Antonio has. But don't go overlooking the boofs. Ursaluna may be slow, but it has the ability to hold on and hit back against most of San Antonio's threats. And the ones it struggles against, like Volcanion and Walking Wake, Paldean, Aqua Tauros, and Amoonguss, can have a way to deal with those issues as well, as does Ursaring, whose Eviolite boost presents a bit of a wall for San Antonio. Amoonguss also has the great ability of Regenerator, giving it the chance to take a Water-type move for Ursaluna and swap out before a Fire-type move comes out. And if San Antonio does bring the rain, all the better for the Shroomon. But real power for Birmingham comes in the form of Chi-Yu, who in the sun becomes a humongous threat with either Choice Specs for more power or Choice Scarf to almost outrun everything on San Antonio's team. If Squidge thinks that San Antonio brings the rain, perhaps Birmingham brings Beartick, whose Swift Swim gives it a huge boost to its speed while being able to hit San Antonio's Dragon types hard. And it's not like Chi-Yu is useless in the rain with its Dark typing and Dark Pulses. I don't think this matchup is as one-sided as the current standings would suggest. Yes, San Antonio is a good team. Yes, Birmingham's roster construction is odd. Yes, I said yes for a rule of 3 without thinking about what to say, but Birmingham has an out this week, and I think it comes in the form of Aqua Paldean Tauros, who offers some bulk, a good typing, and the ability to hit hard in the sun thanks to its fighting type. I think both Ursaluna and Ursaring with the Guts ability this week can really turn Torkoal's Will-O-Wisp in their favor as well. But Paldean Tauros' Intimidate ability offers a way to deal with Roaring Moon very well. Roaring Moon, who is tied in the league for the leading knockouts this season. Whether or not San Antonio brings a rain this week though, I think Volcanion is the key Pokemon for the Seal. Its good physical bulk combined with its ability to hit 5 of the best mons that Birmingham can bring with super effective stab moves is very, very important. I think this is going to be a difficult battle for the Boofs, and I don't think they're going to win this one, but I'm rooting for them. I do think they surprise us, but San Antonio will win 3-0. Our second to last matchup of the week features the last place Boston Bronzors traveling to Australia, mate, to take on the 9th place Illusion. Boston hopes to show up this week. They forfeited last week to British and almost got swept by the Minnesota in week 1. Aussie, on the other hand, are hoping that the Trick Room throws the Bronzors for the loop and they can get back to the winning side of things following a loss to Cambridge. The Illusion will need a big week from King Gambit, Iron Hands, and Cresselia, as Boston will need an equally big week from the likes of Tyranitar, Hisuian Arcanine, and Corviknight. The Illusion have seen some good success this year so far with its dedicated Trick Room team, with the inverse speed order helping its hitters really take out their opponents, helping King Gambit sit in third in knockouts for the season. Aussie's lineup in the start of the season though has been very similar to each other, with Hatterene and Diancie joining Gambit, Hands, and Cress, with the only difference being Goldengo in week 1 and Copperage in week 2. I think Aussie should bring Goldengo this week, as its good as gold ability gives it immunity to the status moves, meaning Rotom Wash, Grimmsnarl, and Hisuian Arcanine status moves will be ineffective. I think the big change though this week for the Aussie Illusion is swapping the roles of Hatterene and Diancie, letting Diancie become a Trick Room setter and Hatterene being the Trick Room attacker. Hatterene may have just had 2 bad matchups early in the season, but it's been taken out in one shot in both weeks and on the first turn of the battle. Diancie as a Trick Room setter though would be beneficial for Aussie because of its high defenses compared to Hatterene's. Boston finds itself trying to get some credibility this week. From being panned to the draft to lackluster week 1 to forfeiting last week's battle, Boston has a good squad of Pokemon. The problem has been how Boston has positioned them thus far. Rotom as a physical attacker, Grimmsnarl and Arcanine with only 3 moves. There's room for Boston to improve, especially with Pokemon like Cantonian Articuno and Galarian Slowbro on the roster. Boston has the most cap room in the league too, with 16 points left and 3 spots on the roster. But that's for a different video. Boston's team does have potential though, and in this matchup they have the ability to really give Aussie's problems with hazards and multiple Pokemon who have the ability to taunt Aussie's Trick Room setters and then punish them. If Boston wants to show up and turn the ha-has around on the rest of the league, they're really going to need to come out strong in this matchup, because they're in for it. If they can get out in front of the Trick Room, it gets easier to deal with, and Grimmsnarl is the key to that. Prankster Taunt, along with the ability to land a parting shot on attackers in Trick Room, Grimmsnarl can even do some real damage with Stab, Dark, and Fairy type moves, a combo of types that no one on the Illusion can resist. For Aussie though, their key Pokemon in this matchup is a little tougher to decide. Obviously all the Trick Room setters are vital to the success, but they can't take advantage of Trick Room as well as their hitters, of which there are 3 that would benefit greatly this week, but the best being their knockout leader in King Gambit, who resists all but 4 Pokemon from Boston while also hitting every member of the Bronzors for at least neutral damage. Add in its ability to hit first with Sucker Punch, which is something that almost no one else on the Illusion can do. I think this match ends with Aussie winning. I just think it's a matter of whether or not it's close game or if it's a blowout. It can go either way with Trick Room, but I think it leads to closer to a blowout than a close game, and I think Aussie wins this 4-0. And finally, our premium matchup, there's a change to what was originally scheduled, because our original scheduled battle between the 1-1 Pig's-Eye Pignite and the 2-0 Cambridge Clodsire is postponed for a week. The Pig's-Eye fans deserve a home game to celebrate their team, and thus the Commissioner League got on the horn and set up a match between the Pig's-Eye, calling for an inter-league friendly team to travel to Pig's-Eye for them to take on in a home game for the Pig's-Eye. Enter the Delaware Delphoxes, led by General Manager Hobb. The Pig's-Eye Ghost Squad, led by Annihilate, Hisuian Typhlosion, and Mimikyu, look to give the home crowd a win over Delaware, who are led by Galarian Moltres, Hawlucha, and Kleavor. Delaware consists of Pokemon who are still currently free agents in the Dork Side Pokemon League, all hoping to prove their worth to the league. G, Moltres, Hawlucha, and Kleavor lead this team along with the likes of Sylveon, Brute Bonnets, Low Kicks, and Cloyster. We don't know much about Delaware other than its roster, but one has to think that their Spite Up shows up and shows its value as a hazard setter this week against Pig's-Eye, who lacks a way to deal with hazards. Pig's-Eye will have to figure out what their opponent can do and figure it out fast. Annihilate, Typhlosion, and Mimikyu can do some serious damage to Delaware this week, with Delaware's big weaknesses to fighting, fire, and fairy. With the offensive Mons pretty strong this week, Pig's-Eye is going to need some Mons to help support them where they can and give them chances to do that serious damage. I think this is where we see Sableye, who can set up screens, and if Delaware does bring Spite Ups, it can shut down hazards, especially if the only attack is Circle Throw from Spite Ups. Sableye also gives the Pignite another Pokemon that isn't weak to Dark types, which might mean that this week is the week to leave Hoopa Unbound on the bench. Its quad weakness to Bug type gives Delaware several Pokemon who can deal with it and take it out very quickly, especially with First Impression on a handful of them. And in its place, perhaps Oricorio comes in to deal with hazards as Defog, as well as threaten those Bug types with Flying type moves. Gengar is always a great pick, but maybe Gengar is more support based with taunts and toxic spikes while still being able to be a strong attacker. Pig's Eye is going to be the first team to host an interleague friendly in the league, and they hope to not find themselves losing this first ever matchup. The results won't matter in this league standings, but the results will still matter to the Pig Knight. If Didac wants to walk away with a win, he needs Hisuian Typhlosion to be as impactful as it can, because no Pokemon on Delaware can resist fire-type moves. If Didac chooses to not bring a Pokemon to handle the Spite-Ups' hazard threats, then Heavy Duties will be a must for its item, which may, kind of cost it some damage on rolls. For Delaware, Hawlucha's ability to outspeed everything and hit hard is too much to ignore from where I sit. While its fighting type is no good in this matchup against all these ghost types, its flying type is very, very good. Nothing resisted on Pig's Eye. That pairs well with Hawlucha's Unburden ability and Acrobatics, giving it double speed and a flying type move that is almost as strong as Close Combat or Brave Bird, but with none of the drawback. This matchup is going to be a good test for Pig's Eye because they have to build for a team that has a lot of threats to it, with multiple dark types, several Pokemon who have hazard potential, and some scary, scary Pokemon in general. I do think though that Pig's Eye is able to hold it down, represent the DSPL well, and win 2-0. That will do it for my preview of Week 3 in the Dork Side Pokemon League. I am Commissioner Grumm. Comment below for who you think will win this week. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel as I'm on my way to 200 subscribers. And in return, you get more DSPL content, including the live broadcasts of these games live on Twitch and YouTube on Sunday, September 24th at 8 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, like I said, I am Commissioner Grumm. Thank you for watching this Week 2 preview edition of DSPL Weekly on Grumm.tv. I will see you next week.
Grumm TV thanks you for watching this presentation of the Dork Side Pokemon League.